What is up, guys? We are live here with Pro Play Games, and we have our 10th place out of our 50 plus person local tournament, which is insane. Blue Crocodile, actually. We want to switch things up, kind of just like take a little bit more of a casual approach to the game and kind of start testing the waters on like what else is out there that we don't know is already busted, like Kid and, you know, Kaido and things like that. And yeah, Croc was pretty surprising. I mean, typically in this format, people just look at blue and they're like, oh, Doflamingo or bust. But Crocodile is actually a pretty good alternative for blue if you, for example, just only have access to the starter deck or whatever, and you don't want to play Doflamingo. I think Crocodile is a pretty good alternative. So before we start, if you like anything in this deck profile, remember you can buy all these cards on ProPlayGames.com or by using our affiliate link down in the description down below to shop on TCG Player. Whoever you shop from on TCG Player, just by using that affiliate link really helps us out, so please check that out if you haven't already. 2, we are hosting the Treasure Cup in Miami, Florida. We're sold out at this moment, but we will have a waiting list available on our Discord. Links in the description down below if you are looking to get into the main event. And if you don't make it to the main event, don't worry, we will be hosting a plethora of side events for those that may have missed the main event, or if you don't do so hot in the main event, you'll be able to play in side events for the whole weekend. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Crocodile is an activate main once per turn, Don -4, to pretty much put back a character with 5 or less back to the owner's hand on the board. So, notably, you can do your own cards. Never really did that, but cool thing to know. And because you do have, you know, some pretty nice like on-play effects. You have like your Gecko Morias, and you have your, you know, Marshall D Teaches and stuff like that that you might want to replay for the on-plays. And yeah, so this is a card that typically you want to use the ability once you're at like 10 Dawn. That way you can kind of just like refresh back to 8 and then make your way back to 10 and then -4 again, you know, etc. So yeah, let's kick it off. We played, to start it off, we played 4 of the 1-drop law. 4 of the 1-drop law is really good, just because blue, this is like their only access to a cheap blocker, and it is a 7 Warlords, therefore you can buy it back with the Gecko Moria, which is obviously a blue staple, very powerful card, so there's no reason not to play 4 of this card. It's just a cheap blocker that you can recur all day, every day. Next we play 4 Miss All Sunday. So our leader is a Baroque Works, not like Doflamingo. So if you wanted a reason to play Crocodile and not Doflamingo, well, it's because Crocodile's a Baroque Works. So that means Miss All Sunday will get the ability to add back an event card from your trash to your hand on KO, which is really good because now this blocker essentially reads, you know, block, draw a card, which, you know, that card that you get back also draws you a card. So she could really, realistically, if you want to look at her, she's like 3 cards all in one. So very powerful card, and you know, a blocker to boot. And her only arc enemy is Nico Robin. Really, she's not that great against Nico Robin. It will give you value on the KO though, so pretty cool. This deck does have a lot of blockers, as you can see. These first 3 cards that we're talking about are all blockers, so you have no shortage of blockers in this deck, which is really nice. This one's Doflamingo himself. So we still play Doflamingo because we like information, and information in any deck is really good. You know, information sometimes priceless, right? It really just it dictates how you're going to play your next couple rounds and your next couple turns. So you really want to just play with as much information as possible, and sometimes in certain matchups you need to dig for certain cards, so just being able to have the option of like putting all those 5 cards to the bottom of your deck to get you closer to the card that you really need is really cool, or to see if it's there, so when we play cards like Mr. 2 over here, we actually don't miss. So Mr. 2 is our 2K counter of choice over Alvida, I think it's called, because we do oftentimes have the ability to play the Mr. 2, and we normally do in aggro matchups when we need a little bit more board presence, as we don't have a lot of characters here at the low drop slot. On most of our characters, meat and potatoes, are really in the 4-drop to 5-drop slot. But Mr. 2, for 1 Dawn, when attacking, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, add a Baroque Works type event card to your deck to your hand, put the rest at the bottom. So this is cool because I typically like doing the whole Doflamingo. Look at the top 5, make sure a Baroque Works event card is actually there, then go Mr. 2 to attack, get that card. That way I'm not like blindly looking at the top 5, which, you know, you can, because the number I think is like think the number is like 6 on Baroque card event cards, so you don't really want to do it blindly. I mean, you can, but that's usually a last resort. I like to see if it's there first. But yeah, the card is just great, either as 2K combo or just playing it out. Then for the 4-drop slot, we play 3-bow Hancock. I think she's great. I think I'll trim her only because I want to try the 5-drop Crocodile. So I really wanted to try him. I completely forgot about him when we were like playing the deck. Yeah, he's just a cool card because he's a 6K blocker. I don't like her too much as a blocker because she's a 5K. So she's typically never really blocking anything that you wouldn't just like take to the face, because your blocker typically you wanted to have like way lower stat line, way less cost, so it's not really you could throw the blocker away, you don't care about it. But when you have an expensive blocker like a 4 cost, 5 cost, you typically want to be able to have it at a higher power level, so that when you block it's like you're saving combo power, because now they're not attacking a 5, they're doing combat against a 6 or 7 or whatever. But with that being said, if you attach a Dawn, it does draw you a card on block. So typically you can see this as a 6K or 7K, because the card that you draw typically will be that 1K or 2K combo or whatever that you need to defend this card. So, it's not the worst. I think that 2 is a fine number in this deck. I think you only really want to see 3 to 4 copies in like a dedicated Doflamingo deck, because that's when this card like comes out for free. In this deck, you always have to pay the 4, so it doesn't really cheat itself out. And you can buy it back with Gecko Moria, which is why you don't really want to like super duper max out on that card. But regardless, this card's really good. I use it a lot to attack. It's a lot of pressure, and red decks normally have to red this, so like it does end up pseudo blocking a card because they end up having to magnetize their focus into it and getting it off the board. Martial D Teach is another one of our 4-drops here. I mean, like every blue, unfortunately, it's very heavily slotted in the 4-drop slot. But Martial D Teach is a good card that we only play 3 of because, yeah, you can buy it back. And 2 is very good. It's a very good tempo attacker. Being able to just bounce back any card and then just attach a Dawn and attack for 5K is really good. And there's turns where you can like play a Martial D Teach for 4. Also, reason why this is very good on the 4-drop slot, because a lot of your cards are 4-drops, so you can play the 4-drop then minus 4 Dawn. So typically when you're at 10 Dawn, you play one of your 4-drops. You get a nice little on play, then you get a -4 with your Croc, and it's like nothing ever really happened, and you get like a surprising amount of tempo. Sometimes this being able to bounce back blockers, which they can't combo with to their hand, and this bouncing back typically like their 5-drop bombs that don't have any combo power either. So notably being able to bounce back Monkey D. Leafy, the Law, the 5-drop, and cards like that really. Then for the 4K, we're still at the 4-drop slots here. We're playing the 4 Dracula Mihawk, of course. I mean, this card's like the best 2K combo. You're not playing blue without playing this card, really. And, of course, it's a 7 Warlords of the Sea. That means we can buy it back with our boy Gecko Moria. And this is obviously hands down the best thing that blue has going for it. We can't play it for free like Doflamingo, but it's still pretty good. Because when we play it, at least it comes in untapped and it always gets in there. It's always very threatening, honestly, because the 5K stat line. Next, we hop all the way over to the 7-drop slot, which is also why I wanted to fit in the Croc, because I felt like having some 5-drops in there would be nice. But the 7-drop slot is going to be occupied by the 4 of Crocodile. Yes, we are playing the Crocodile that the blue-purple Crocodile plays. It's still very good in this deck because the way that we built our deck is very event card heavy, so it does get a lot of value off the cheating of the event card costs. And it also has the keyword Banish, which is just overall like one of the most broken keywords in the game, I think, and it's part of the reason why the blue-purple deck has so much success is because you're really able to play this like really good ground game where you're just not giving your opponent any cards, and Crocodile is really good at doing that. And it fits into the curve pretty nicely, and you can still make those like really good plays where you play Croc and then you -4 your leader, and you kind of like alleviate any of the existing pressure that's on board, so that your Croc can actually like you don't get super punished, because typically on the Croc like you're investing a lot. You're investing 8, right? You're going 7, and then 1 for the Dawn. and it leaves you kind of vulnerable sometimes, you know. So you want to be able to, you know, set them back a turn or make them replay a Luffy or something. That way they're not just like, you know, ambushing you as soon as you play the Croc. And then once you stabilize with Croc, I mean, game over pretty much. For the 7-drop slot as well, we're playing Doflamingo. Same thing. Like, this is the same idea as playing the Martial D Teach, except this guy's a 7k that your opponent really can't deal with. I mean, decks don't really have an answer to this card, to be honest. And what's beautiful about him is, yeah, you play him, and then you -4, and you bounce back a 7 or less and a 5 or less. So, like, you can clear their bombs pretty easily with that little combo right there. And then this is a 7k, which is, like, the same reason why Croc is so good. I mean, he's a 7k as well, too, but this guy's 7k base. You don't need to attach any Dawn. He just comes down, gets the on-play, boom, done, over. And then if you really want to be a savage, you can attack with him, and then -4 itself, put it back into your hand, and then, you know, save it up for next turn again. Rarely do you ever want to do that, but I mean, like, there's worlds where, like, you really stall out. Like, this is a very control deck, so sometimes you run out of value, and you want to, like, replay value, and you can do that. That's pretty much for all the characters. Now we're going into the event cards. And of course, what's a Crocodile Baroque Works deck without the actual Baroque Works event card? So this is a very thematic deck. If you kept count, we had a pretty decent amount of Baroque cards in this deck, but we are still only playing 2 copies of this card because it does not have any combo power. So it feels pretty bad when we start taking this off life, and we really need to defend, so we wanted to keep the count pretty low. But we did want to have some numbers so that our Bon Clay can get us, you know, activations of this card. And in general, this card searches us to 7-drop, and the 7-drop is really, like, you know, this deck isn't as reliable as the blue-purple Crocodile on the 7-drop, but it is definitely nice to be able to find it when you need it. And then for our other Baroque Works event card, this is the only other Baroque Works event cards that we have. So for Bon Clay, it only has really 2 options, but it's 6 different cards, so 15% chance or so. Is the Desert Spada. Desert Spada is really good, especially the trigger, actually, which is surprising how many times we get the trigger in this deck for this guy, especially out of 4 of. It's a net draw 1 on the trigger, draw 2, discard 1, so you net 1. Very nice. And 2, the information. If you draw this card, just, once again, seeing the information at the top of your deck and knowing how to play out your next couple turns, and you know, knowing what's coming and kind of just like shifting things to the bottom that may not be as good are all very good things that you want to, you know, be doing in this deck. And this card is free with Crocodile, so, and the 2k counter is actually really good because now you're playing, like, you're playing these, plus you're playing the Mihawks, plus you're playing the Mihawks that can be recurred, by the way, and you're playing the Bon Clays, so, you know, that's a lot of 2ks that your opponent has to fight through. So next we're playing Overheat. This one was, and this one's kind of whatever. The only reason why we play this is because if you look at the traditional blue-purple Crocodile that we were all working on, it played Blast Breath, right? So there's no blue, like, the closest thing to Blast Breath in blue is Overheat and Love Beam, both of which are 2 cost, not 1 cost. But if you do have Crocodile out, they do become 1 cost. So it's the closest that you can get to a Blast Breath without the minus Dawn, which is actually pretty good. And yeah, the thing is with Blast Breath, you can't even reduce it past 1 anyways, because Crocodile only reduces blue event cards. So that's as close as you're going to get. And the additional effects that Overheat has sometimes aren't very relevant or sometimes very easy to play around, but it is an effect nonetheless that can definitely punish your opponent if they don't respect it. And a lot of people in this game sometimes don't know how to sequence. They play their card, then they attack, then you punish them with Overheat, you bounce back to their hand, right? So this is definitely a really good card that can catch your opponent off guard, and the trigger can also just catch your opponent off guard. A lot of the times they just won't respect it, won't know it's there, and just being able to return any 4 costs less on the trigger is just pretty vital. And but yeah, I think it's a solid 2 of. I don't think I'd play anymore. And then of course the last event card that we play is the best one that blue has going for it, is Love Mellow. Love Mellow is just one of the most broken event cards that, you know, blue in general has. It's just a draw 1 essentially, and if you have Croc out, it's a 1 cost draw 1 plus 4k, which is as good as it's gonna get. But even without Croc out, this card is, you're more than fine paying 2 for this card as long as you're always drawing a card. So, but yeah, that's pretty much the deck profile, guys. I think we lost twice. We lost to We lost to Kaido. Kaido's a pretty difficult matchup because you don't really want to be bouncing a lot of their stuff. It gets them too much value. Everything's just on play, and then like you can't really interact with their kings too well. And if you don't see 7-drop Doflamingo, it's a really bad matchup. But like if you can find your Doflamingos and your Crocs on curve, I think it's a pretty decent matchup because they have no way of interacting with 7-cost 7Ks, and 7K is just very hard to defend. So if you put the pressure with them, I think you're fine in that matchup. And then, who else did I lose to? I think I lost to Red, I want to say. Yeah, Red's typically not that bad, but they can't, I mean, they curve you out, and like, it's just hard. Yeah, the good Red players, I think that's probably your worst fear. And then curve purple decks are your worst fear. But other than that, it's a very nice deck, very fun deck, and if you like Doflamingo and you enjoy that type of playstyle, I think this would fit you pretty well. But yeah, that's pretty much the deck, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and until next time.